All right. So I've been getting lots and lots of questions about hair loss in women, and I've been getting these for a little while. And the obvious thing is, we'll just, we'll check your iodine levels. And a lot of these women were taking iodine. The problem we get into, and I think one of the major issues that we need to kind of recognize, is that COVID is really, really bad for a lot of really important systems. And what we're seeing is that COVID is starting to damage the thyroid and starting to block some of the iodine receptors and things like that. So what we're finding with women who are having hair loss issues, and there's a giant amount of them, is we need to, and many of these women, we have to detox out a lot of the inflammatory chemicals the body already has, kill the parasites, kill the yeast issues, reset all that stuff. But then we need to make sure they're getting ample amounts of iodine. And what we're seeing is that it's more than what we'd normally recommend for iodine because the thyroid's damaged. If you have 100 receptors and you go to 30 receptors, you're going to need a lot more iodine to like get it all in and get it all function. The problem is we've also got to clean off the thyroid because without cleaning it off and keeping the toxins out of it, we're going to have secondary and tertiary problems as well. It's going to be a bigger issue than just hair loss. And this is one of those things, we've been seeing this in dozens and dozens and dozens of women who've been coming in complaining that their hair is falling out, their hair is getting brittle, they're having lower energy and that type of thing. So I would attack this entire issue on a larger front. So get your labs done, and get your labs done by somebody who knows how to pull labs on thyroid. If they pull a TSH or a TSH and a T4 and that's all they pull, they have no idea what they're doing. I don't care if they're an endocrinologist or not. TSH is a brain hormone. It's thyroid stimulating hormone. The brain releases it to stimulate the thyroid. It's like telling your teenager to go clean their room. You don't know if they did it unless you pull the T3 and T4, specifically T3 free and T4 free. You're going to want reverse T3 in there as well. But anyway, if they're not pulling the right labs, they're not going to get you where they want to go. The other thing is that I would also look at the supporting function of this, because one of the things that the body does really well is compensate. And so when we're seeing the thyroid compensate, it's usually compensating for adrenal function. And when we talk about energy and stuff like that, you're looking at testosterone. So my recommendation is that you guys get your testosterone levels pulled, you get your thyroid levels pulled, you reassess your iodine intake. Minerals are a giant part of being healthy. We can use, like the superior mineral we use to push down sex hormone binding globulins. We get more utilization of testosterone. We get freer, easier utilization of estrogen and progesterone. So what ends up happening is that you get a lot more function with a lot less added in. So the reason that you'd want to be not just look at, I'll just, triple my iodine dose, which is great. Most of you should be doing that. Not all of you, can't speak for all of you. But if you're like, okay, we're going to give the body some testosterone, that'll cover these 3 or 4 areas. And then we'll give you, we'll clean up your gut health, decrease the inflammation so that this will cover those 3 or 4 areas. And then we'll give you some more iodine, it'll cover these 3 or 4 areas. We're going to clean up your adrenals, that'll give you this, that'll clean up some stuff over here. So what we're really starting to look at is that if you're not taking a holistic approach to what's going on, you're going to have significant issues because we're losing our, the food has almost no nutrient value in it. The vast majority of people who live in the United States are not getting any iodine in at all. Because if you just look at your diet and look at what you're eating, be like, how much iodine's in this? And most of you are going to get very, very little. So it makes sense that people are iodine depleted and that they are starting to show signs of it. So you can up the iodine, but you got to look at everything else that's going on. The vast majority of our food and our water and our air is full of endocrine disruptors. Now, you might have heard that before and been like, I've heard that, and that sounds terrible. And the endocrine system is going to be linked directly to your energy, your metabolism, your sex drive, your ability to heal, regenerate, and repair. So think of the endocrine system as your thyroid, all your testosterone, your adrenal function. So we're looking at ADD, ADHD. We're looking at libido and sex drive. We're looking at healing, regeneration. We're looking at energy. We're looking at metabolism as far as utilization of fuel, so we're not getting fat. Focus, attention, all those things are directly related to the endocrine system. Your endocrine system is your hormone system. So we know, for instance, like I've pulled blood on hundreds of 20-year-old men, And I haven't found a single one of them with testosterone in the right range. Most of them are 180 to 300. A 20-year-old, a healthy 20-year-old should be between 800 and 1200. You find some healthy guys, healthy guys are at 750, 720, something like that, but none of them are healthy at 180. We're seeing that over and over and over again. There's a lot of agricultural issues that are in this. Atrazine is one of the biggest ones. And I don't know if you've seen this, but Congress is voting right now on whether or not to give the same legal financial coverage to chemical companies that make, atrazine and DDT and glyphosate, to give them carte blanche immunity from prosecution, just like they gave to vaccine companies. And that's going to be the worst possible thing in the world. And this isn't like, hey, if we find out something new later, you're covered on that. It is all of the stuff we know about glyphosate and atrazine and all the horrible things that are happening, you don't have any legal financial responsibilities. If you kill 1 million people, you're fine. No one can sue you. You're good. That's going on, I think, today. They're voting on that one. So there's a lot of stuff going on that is directly affecting your body that is being swept under the rug. And because there's so much money in politics and there's so much corruption in the medical system, that's probably going to be a thing. So all this atrazine, all those things that are creating these endocrine disruptors, decreasing fertility, decreasing quality of life, those companies are going to be looking like those companies are going to be able to continue to manufacture that, utilize it, and have zero risk into the future. So we're going to have to start all taking care of ourselves a little bit closer and starting figuring out what's going on. So if you haven't had these things tested, if you haven't had your thyroid labs pulled, if you haven't had your testosterone labs pulled, you haven't had your fasting insulin pulled, I would work with somebody who does these things and understands what's going on to make sure that you're where you're supposed to be. Because this isn't one of those things where you're like, oh, I didn't have it for a couple of years and I'll just start taking it, I'll be fine. We're talking about major, major damage to your quality of life and to your longevity of life without having these things. It's not just that your hair falls out. We end up with more breast cancer. We end up with more cancers of multiple different kinds when we have low nutrient and low mineral count. So, the other big thing that we see is look at the women, just look at the women. If the women are tired, they have no sex drive, how is that going to deal with the marriage? The two things we know of that cause divorce are, sex problems, lack of sex mainly, and financial problems. Well, those are the two biggest ones. If we go through and we're like, all right, cool, we're going to work on our women, we're going to increase their health, we're going to give their energy back, give their sex drive back, give their orgasm function back, make them feel pretty again. That's going to radically increase the desire and the drive and the function for sex, which is going to be a major player in marriages. So if you destabilize the marriage and you let that start to fall apart, it's a pretty easy thing that people are going to be more concerned with what's going on in their family than they are with what's being done to them by the government. So this is one of those things that we all need to kind of recognize. If we don't start taking care of our women, our entire family and everything else that's around us is going to collapse. Like, I love that everyone's like, oh, the men run the family. The men run the family because the whole point of it is to take care of the women and the kids. And that's how we were designed. So, we're the protectors, we're loyal, we're the whole thing. The problem is that we don't know how to take care of the women. And the biggest issue that I see, and this is such a it's sad, but it's hilarious, because you ask women what's wrong, and they're like, nothing. What they really are meaning, I don't know. They're like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel energetic. I don't feel loved. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I feel a high level of anxiety and uncertainty, and I don't know why. That's what they're telling you. And the thing is that most of them, they have no idea why they feel that way. And a lot of them, it's because of nutrient deficiencies. Like when I work on depression, we've had this conversation. When I work on depression, there's a long, long list of supplementation that they've got to do just to get their system back up to functioning. Iodine, magnesium, boron, testosterone. There's a giant list of things these women are deficient in, because there's a whole list of reasons why. But the big issue is that we're not getting the nutrients in that we need. So if you've noticed that you've got hair loss and you can't figure out how to deal with it, get a hold of us, and I'll walk you through the labs you need to do. I'll walk you through what iodines you do want, you don't want, any cofactors nutrient-wise that you're going to want to look at, and things that you can do to kind of help balance that out. So this has been a really big deal for since COVID. And if you do the research, COVID damages the thyroid nodules and sits on the thyroid and blocks everything. The ACE2 receptor function in the thyroid's big. So these are things that we're starting to see. So if you've experienced hair loss, say something about it, get a hold of us. We'll do something with you. If your friends have experienced it, have them get a hold of us. But some of you guys will do just fine by just doubling up your iodine. A lot of you will need more help than that. So if you guys are looking for that type of help, get a hold of us. But this is a big issue. It's much, much, much more from a health issue than just your hair. You can always buy a wig and some of them look fantastic. However, that doesn't mean that you're still healthy. That doesn't mean we don't have to worry about your thyroid. That doesn't mean we don't have to worry about anything else. So I would get those levels checked. The COVID vaccine and the COVID virus was designed to depopulate. That's why it was made. And if you don't stay on top of it, it's going to start radically reducing your quality of life, and it's going to reduce your function. So that's kind of where we're at. If you guys have 20-year-olds, if your mom, dad, 20-year-olds, I would make sure they're getting checked. Having low testosterone isn't one of those things that isn't that big of a deal. Well, they just won't when they go to the gym, they just won't get big and strong. They're not going to heal. They're not going to think right. It's a problem. So get those kids checked. I know that everybody thinks that low testosterone is an old person issue, which old people have an issue with this as well. But when you disrupt the body's ability to create the chemicals it was designed to make, you're always going to have a problem. And that's what's going on with all these kids. Like most of the time, we've got to change their diet. Some of them are doing a little bit better. But the other things, we got to always have to detox them out. We got to take all those chemicals that they've been eating since they were, 3 years old out. We got to replace the nutrient levels. And the great thing about a lot of these kiddos, I will tell you, the 20-something-year-olds I've worked on, they're so much better about, once they get the information, dealing with it than a lot of our adults are. I say adults, a lot of our 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds. So it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue, fertility specifically on this one. But again, if you're losing your hair, get your labs checked. I would only go to a functional medicine doctor. Go to someone like me. Go to functional medicine. Do not go to your normal doc. They have no idea what they're doing with hormones. Endocrinologists, I don't trust at all. And I don't trust endocrinologists because I have seen so many women come back with thyroid issues, and the endocrinologist pulled a TSH and a T4, or they told them they were fine when they obviously weren't, or they told them that they didn't need testosterone, or they didn't fix their diabetes. So this is why I'm not a big fan of endocrinologists at the moment. So if you guys are looking for that, get a hold of us, and we'll be able to get you back where you need to go. Thanks for your time. Have a fabulous day.